Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story TV and the Her Story podcast. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Gertrude, for having me on the podcast today. I'm really excited to be here and to be talking a little bit about myself. My name is Natalie. I am 26, about to turn 27 in September, and I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. I've watched a few of Gertrude's other podcasts here and I've seen some amazing women's stories. So I think it was interesting when she asked me to be, because I didn't really think there was anything too remarkable about myself. But I think Gertrude's really helped me reflect on the stuff that I've done and really understand that I do have a lot to offer as a young woman in an industry that doesn't necessarily have a lot of young women. So I'm actually a specialist agency recruiter at a bespoke recruitment company called Circuit. But what I think is different about me is actually more to do with my career journey to date. So I'm actually a career changer. And I actually started out my career in science. So if I kind of take it all the way back, I think a lot of people might be inspired by the story of how I got to where I am, especially if they feel like they're maybe not on the right career path and they're not 100% sure about where they're heading. But for me, when I was a young lady, I actually really identified with two completely separate paths. So for me, it was a mixture of both science and performing arts. So I really, really, as a kid, loved singing, dancing, acting, and all that sort of fun stuff. And all throughout high school, I wanted to try and keep that in my life. So I did my high school musicals and all that sort of lovely stuff. And as I sort of moved into high school, I realized that I had a bit of a passion and affinity for learning. So I got really into the science side of things. I became fascinated by all things to do with the human body, and sort of wondered whether I could nurture an element of my sciencey side. What I found really difficult was once I'd sort of gotten to the point where I'd graduated, I was up until that point always able to keep both passions in synergy with each other. You can study both at the same time in high school. You can do your drama subjects, you can do your science subject. I was doing really, really well in chemistry and biology. And then I also duxed my drama subject as well. So I actually got the chance to go to the performing arts. I'm going to start that little bit last bit again. You can edit it out for me, Gertrude. I actually got the chance to go to the Performing Arts Centre in the city and actually do my live performance of my drama solo at the time. And in order to do that, you actually have to have a perfect score when you sit that exam. So it was something I was really proud of, was my performing arts history. But then I also really loved nurturing that learning side of me. And so when it came to wanting to go into the future, into my studies, I knew I wanted to study something. I was not sure what, because I had no real career path ahead of me. I had no idea what I wanted to end up. I was so different to the people who wanted to go into uni and then become a doctor or a physio or a psychologist. I was always so jealous of those people that felt like they had their career path laid out in front of them so easily, because I just never felt that way about myself. So I was in a unique position where I wanted to do two things that were on the complete polar ends of the spectrum. And the people in my life were always just advising me to do what would make me happy. So I said, okay, I'm going to do both science and performing arts. And turns out that's not a possibility in university. There's not one degree out there that I knew of at the time that amalgamated the two. So everyone said, just do what would make you money. Go ahead and try and move into the science space, because it can be really, really difficult to carve out a path for yourself in the performing arts space. So that's exactly what I did. I went into university. I did a Bachelor of Science, studied for 4 years. I put my heart and soul into that degree. I realized halfway through that maybe I was still as directionless as I was when I first started, but I thought, no, it'll sort itself out when I get to the end. And sure enough, I got to the end and realized for the second time, I felt like I was back at high school, making that decision about where I wanted to go again. I was like, wow, once again, I have no idea what I want to do. So it was back to the drawing board for me. I was hell-bent on getting a job in the industry because I'd spent so much time and energy perfecting the craft and understanding things about the human body and about sciences. So once I sort of got out of university and decided I wanted to try and take the next step, I decided I needed to go straight into a career job. I really didn't want to go back to university. It was just way too daunting for me. I felt really burnt out. I really didn't want to study anymore. And unfortunately, in my degree, they really instill in you that you need to keep going. You need to go back and study your honours, study your masters in order to continue. It's the kind of environment where they breed you to just sort of stay in the system or become an academic. And I knew that's not what I wanted for myself. I wanted to be out there in the world, experiencing things and changing my life through my experiences. So I started searching for a job. And this was the first time I actually leveraged my network to get my first job. So just so happened a lady that I went to the gym with was a chief scientist at Monash University in the neurophysiology department. And I thought to myself, fantastic, that's where I want to be. That's what I want to do. Let's go for this job. It's all on the job training. I don't have to do any more study. This will be fantastic. So I got that job and it was really fantastic. It was almost 2 years of my life. I found that it was a patient-facing role. So a lot of people say that neurophysiology scientist, it sounds like I was a person in a lab coat, doing research, but it was actually a patient-facing role. And that's what I loved about it. It was around people. And I felt like I was able to use my personability in a way that was merged with my love of science and my love of body sciences. And I got to study the brain. I got to read people's brain waves, but then my personal skills really played a role in how good I was at my job, because somebody comes in for a test. We used to run EEGs and somebody would come in for their test and they would sit down, and half of my job was to make sure that they were comfortable enough to enjoy the experience, to get a good reading so that they could get the best outcome possible. So after 2 years of doing that, I kind of started to notice that there was some, cracks, so to speak, in the industry of science. I felt a little bit stifled as a woman. I sometimes was subjected to a little bit of sexism. I felt as though my ceiling for my career was really low, and the parameters for me to be able to move forward were really stringent and really long-winded. I didn't feel like I was able to innovate. Every time I had an idea, it was kind of a if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of environment. And I just felt like it really didn't suit me. And it was really my partner who turned around and said, Natalie, I just don't think you're happy here. The last time you told me that you had a good day at work was forever ago. And I miss seeing you happy when you come home from work and excited and passionate. So I sort of, for the third time in my life, went back to the drawing board and thought, gosh, I have to go and start from scratch completely all over again. That's when I started to consider recruitment. Once again, it was because somebody in my network who was supporting me at the time gave me that idea. So this is a bit of a reoccurring theme in my life. It's something that is really dear to my heart, is making sure that you have a strong supportive network around you. It's something that I really encourage candidates and clients to be doing. Now as a recruiter, understanding it from such a different perspective. I didn't realize it at the time, but I've done this already twice in my life, leveraging my network to get to where I want to be. And now it's something I harp on about all of the time. So my partner's mother is a recruiter who has worked in the industry for a very, very long time. She's owned her own firm for a very long time. She's very well respected in the community. And she said, Nat, it's a people job. You should give it a go. I think you'd be really good at it. So I went ahead, applied for a few roles, and I knew that I wanted the job at Circuit when I applied for it. It just seemed like such a fantastic environment to be a part of, with really supportive people in it, and a really good place for me to cut my teeth in the industry. So now I am a technical recruiter. I specialize in software recruitment, software engineers, all the way through to managers and engineering managers, CTOs, exec level, all of that. I work at a bespoke company called Circuit. We are 20 consultants at the moment. We all specialize in different areas of technology, and we cover all areas of technology. But I think what is so different about Circuit is how embedded we are in the community. When I first started, we were in and out of lockdowns for that first year. And then for the second year, everything sort of opened up, and I was able to all of a sudden go to meetups, and that's where my passion for the community came in. So that is where I started volunteering for Girls in Tech. We were sponsoring the Melbourne Java meetup. I was going to all of these technical meetups, meeting new people, expanding my network in a way that I never thought was possible. And now 2 years on, I've even been asked to co-organize the Melbourne Recruitment Meetup, which is one of the biggest recruitment meetups in Australia, alongside some amazing people who have been keeping this going for 7 years and created an amazing community of 1,800 people who are interested in knowledge sharing and I guess sharing best practice about what should be happening in the TA space, and talking about the market and sharing ideas and supporting each other, especially through the last year, has been a really, really tough time. So I think, where I'm heading, what direction I'm heading in when it comes to me and my career is I really have identified, I guess, a gap between agency recruitment and internal recruitment and agency recruitment and the clientele that we work with. And I think so many people have been burnt by recruiter experiences, but I think that from the interactions that I've been having with different people in the market, I'm starting to notice that the attitude is shifting. People out there want genuine interactions. They want genuine partnerships. They want trustworthiness and integrity in their relationships. And the people who don't provide that are just not lasting, and they're not going to continue lasting. So we're seeing agencies really get real about how they want to treat their clients and treat their candidates. And I really want to be a part of that movement moving forward. And it's something that I think is going to be where I'm going to be taking my career in the future. What I'm most excited to talk about, I guess, and get across here for anybody who feels a little bit lost in their career is that you should be going with the flow, continue to chase what you love. I have no regrets about where I went in order to end up where I am now. I love where I am now. I wouldn't have it any other way, but I also wouldn't change the journey. I learned so much. And something else that I would really love to drive home to anybody who's listening who is not really sure about the path that they want to take. I just want to let you know that if you continue to put yourself out there, meet people, meet like-minded people, and go to events and get out of your comfort zone and push yourself in that way, you will always end up going in the direction that you want to go in. Whether you're knowing it or not, the universe will push you there organically and naturally. And that you should really be doing your best to put yourself out there in that way, meet new people, have chats, back yourself, and you'll end up where you want to be.
Absolutely fantastic. One of the things that I loved about you when we first met, of course, we met at an event, and it was like magic. We just clicked, we started talking, and we couldn't stop talking after that. And now here we are, and you're my guest on this podcast. So you're right. You have to put yourself out there. Nothing is going to happen if you're sitting at home, wishing and praying and hoping things will happen while you're home.
100%.
So you were a young woman who had a very, very creative side to you. And you didn't seem to let anything stop you in terms of the things that you tried, the things that worked, the things that didn't. You have lived in a constant state of curiosity, can I say?
You can. I think what's interesting about that, I think what's interesting about that is that if we can tap into something that might not have come across, is there was a period there where I didn't feel that way about myself.
Right.
There was a period there where I was a very anxious person. So I didn't really dive deep into my time in university, but in that time I became very, very enthralled in my studies. And to me, all that mattered was getting the straight A's, getting the HD, getting that over 90%. So I actually became a very anxious person. You wouldn't have recognized me. I wouldn't have said yes to doing something like this, even though it's a really safe environment and I've met you and I trust you. It's not something I would have ever agreed to. This is something that I've grown into over time through trial and error and learning and embracing the experiences around me. And it's also something that was brought out of me from trauma and heartbreak and being upset about things and feeling crap about myself. Like, that growth has come from those harder times. So when I think back to myself at uni, I don't recognize myself. I said no to things because it wasn't in my control. I would only do things if I felt like I had full control. And it wasn't until I started doing a bit of therapy outside of that, realizing that I had an anxious personality type and I was actually refusing to do things that I was afraid of, realizing that I had to embrace the things I was afraid of. This sort of situation makes me nervous. And that's exactly why I should be on this podcast, because it makes me nervous and I'll learn something from it and maybe gain a bit of a platform and a bit of an audience that want to connect with me. And that's invaluable. And I should never shy away from things that make me scared. But I wasn't always that way.
I love it. They actually say that the things that you are scared of are the things that stretch you the most. That's where your growth actually happens. So you are a people person.
Yes.
And it sounds to me like you have finally found your vocation in what you're doing. And you absolutely love what you're doing and you're happy. Now, for those young people who might listen to this podcast, who are thinking of going into a career, not quite sure what it should be, why is it important for you to be happy in the place that you work and in what you're doing as a vocation?
Oh my gosh, there's a million and one answers to that. I would say I want to hone in on two in particular, or maybe even three. One is because when you're not happy, it affects the people around you. And like I sort of mentioned that, it was my partner who picked up on my discontent, and he was the one who turned around and said to me, Natalie, you're not happy. And I mean, he's very kind and very patient and very loving, and I'm very grateful for that. But who knows how short-tempered I was at times, because I'd come home a little bit crappy about some of the things that had happened to me or about being ignored or whatever the case may be. So it affects the people around you when you're not happy. The second thing would be that I've forgotten what the second thing was. I had them both in my head. Bear with me, Gertrude.
That's why this is pre-recorded.
Exactly. I love it. No, that is so good. No, I had two things. So was that? Oh, the second thing I would say is because if you're not happy, then you're not going to be making the impact that you want to be making. Everybody's career exists because it adds value to society in some way, shape, or form. Whether you are the postman, the garbage man, the CEO, the CFO, no matter where you are or feel you rank in society, it doesn't matter. Your job makes an impact. And when you do that job well, you make an impact, no matter how small that impact is. I mean, even, you see really, really cute TikToks of garbage people, or postmen who make a real impact because the dogs that they visit really love them, or their neighborhood knows who they are, and they just do such a great job. If you love what you do, you are going to impact everybody around you so positively. And I talk about this thing with my friends sometimes when we're sort of therapizing each other, where it's like, when you're in a downward spiral, it's really easy to stay in a downward spiral. Once a few bad things happen, you get into a negative mindset, and then bad things just continue to happen to you because that's the energy you're putting out there into the universe. Whereas when you're in an upward spiral, the same rule applies. Why does something have to knock you off your perch? It doesn't actually have to happen. If you're in an upward spiral and you're just going for it and you're gunning for it and you're positive and you keep on being positively reinforced by the great experiences that you're having, then that will just keep going. And once you find something that you love to the point where it makes you happy and fulfilled, you will just find yourself in an upward spiral. CEOs aren't born into CEO roles. They're usually molded into that kind of role. And the way that happens is so nuanced and so profound, but you'll find that the stepping stones that they took, whilst they were definitely setbacks, on a whole, each experience taught themselves to back themselves further and go for it. And recruitment has been such an exercise in that for me. Recruitment scared the living hell out of me. This, I don't recognize myself when I first started. Even the girl that walked into the circuit office on the first day is not the same girl that stands in front of you today. That girl was nervous to make a candidate call, whereas now I'm doing things, without even thinking, that would have really given me a lot of anxiety at the start. So that growth was really important to me. And, I've taken on extra challenges in my career over time. And it's important to me to continue to take on those challenges, because I think as soon as you get stagnant, you're not really continuing to learn, and you're not nurturing that side of you. It's really, really important. And being happy in your job will make you want to take those risks. It will make you want to go further, push yourself. And the more you do that, the more you achieve, the more impact you're creating on the people around you.
Oh, I love that answer. And we spend so much time, 8 hours of your day in the workplace. You had better be happy, right?
Absolutely. Most of your colleagues are people you're seeing more than your family. I see my colleagues sometimes more than I see my partner, and we spend quality time together in our own way. And when you have a culture around you of people where you're spending quality time with those people, even if it is just sitting next to somebody and working away in a productive manner, and sitting there and having a really nice chat at lunchtime, it's fantastic. And it really, really drives you forward. So yeah, you're right. It's so important to be happy. That's 80% of your life. Why would you want to be miserable for 80% of your life?
That's so true. Now let's talk about your job, what you're doing at the moment. You said something that's really important about client relationships is everything.
Yeah.
They say that people buy from people they like, that people will keep coming back to you based on how you treat them. How does that apply to the recruiting world, and what are the things you're doing differently to take care of your clients?
Yeah, I think that is a fantastic question that I'm actually really excited to answer, because I really feel like that is the point of difference that I really want to drive home as an agency recruiter. I think that we're sort of coming out of an age where recruitment has been seen as very transactional. From the dawn of time, it's been seen as transactional. It's go, 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 send, 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 sell, 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 call, 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 call. And I think we're entering into an age where there's a lot of resistance towards that. It is so easy to ignore people. It's so easy to hang up on them. It's so easy to not respond to a message. And it's so easy to be disengaged in the online world. And I think over COVID, I'm not sure whether there are too many people who are aware of what happened, especially in the tech world. I can't really speak about many other markets, but tech I definitely know. The last 2 years, we've seen an incredible tech boom. I should say 3 years, an incredible tech boom. COVID plunged us all into an online world, and every company on the planet had to undergo some form of digital transformation. So the demand for software engineers just shot up. Everybody in tech, salaries went crazy. Competition for talent was really crazy, and talent was really tight. So I think that a lot of people seize the opportunity to create new relationships. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they were quality relationships. They were very, very rushed. And it was, easier than ever. If you just had a few good CVs in your backyard or in your pipeline, then it was easy to send them over and get jobs with new clients. But now things have cooled down, and it's kind of a situation where the consulting piece is the most important part. So I think we're moving out of that transactional relationship and into an era where people want to feel like they created a relationship with you, a partnership, that you're in it together. An agency recruiter should literally be partnering with you. It should be an extension of your business, an extension of your brand. They represent you in the market in so many profound ways. So I think what we're doing different, and I think what every recruiter should be doing different, is less of that cold call sell, cold approach, and more of that engaging with people's content on LinkedIn, going to meetups, educating themselves, creating new relationships with people face to face, going for coffees, not expecting that instant gratification that I think everybody's been getting over the last 2 to 3 years, where it's like, we just need CVs, so just send us what you've got. Whereas now it's like, well, I'm getting all the CVs I need from my job ads because people have been laid off. There's lots of great talent in the market. So what do I get that's different from you? that consists of an actual relationship, me wanting to learn about your business. The honesty and integrity piece is going to be more important than ever. I'm only human and I can't control any of what anyone else does. And 90% of my job relies on what everyone else does. It relies on other people's decisions and their behavior and their actions. So I can't make a candidate do anything. I can't make a client do anything. But what I can do is ensure that I'm the conduit and the bridge between the two. And I'm ensuring that both parties are well informed about what's happening about the other. And if something goes awry, the candidate understands straight away. And if something goes awry for the candidate, the client understands straight away what's happening. I can't explain or control each other's behavior, but I can make sure that they're in the best possible position to get the best possible outcome out of it. And another thing that we are doing different that I want to really talk about is the D&I piece. And that's why I do the Girls in Tech volunteering and all that sort of stuff. That's really, really important to educate myself about the struggles. I mean, we met at a tech diversity event as well, which was amazing. I learned so much about neurodiversity hiring and stuff at that event too. It's important for me as a recruiter to be ensuring I understand more about those minority groups so that I can best represent them, because we all win when we include everybody in the conversation. Another thing I really want to talk about is the diversity and inclusion piece. That's something that I think every recruiter should be arming themselves with, whether you're internal or agency, because especially if you're agency, because it means that it's initiatives that you can be passing on to all of your clients. I started attending Girls in Tech events, tech diversity events, which is where I met you, Gertrude. And I've just learned so much about those communities, how marginalized they can feel, what's important to them, how we can best include them in TA, in every element of talent acquisition, to make sure that they have a voice, because I really do think you miss out on so much of the market when you forget about those minority groups. And we all win when you give those minority voices. And we all win when those people feel seen and included in the workforce.
So what in particular are you doing to source that kind of talent? I know they are a minority here in Australia. What are your tactics? How do you find people?
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, the biggest part of, and I do focus very much on the women's side of things. I think that everybody who has a passion for some sort of diversity and inclusion sort of element usually gravitates to what they understand. The biggest minority group that I identify with is women in the tech space. So that's something I'm particularly passionate about. Recently started to get a little bit more into the neurodiversity area, and I have a colleague who's working a little bit more in that area and would be able to speak a lot more to that. Within the women in tech space, I think it's really important about creating circles of and communities around yourself that foster those kinds of candidates. And I think as well with women, it can be really, really difficult, because what happens is a lot of them enter the tech workforce, and around the age of, mid 30s, they sometimes have kids, and a lot of them actually don't come back. So we find that there's more women in the junior to mid-level space, and then up in the senior space, sometimes they get dragged away because of their gender roles. So it's actually not just about sourcing the right candidates. It's actually also about creating environments and consulting your clients to be able to create environments where women feel welcome to come back into the workforce. Maybe there's equal parental leave so that they're able to have their partner help manage the household. There's flexibility so that they are able to clock on and clock off at different times than usual. They're able to work from home and take care of their families, but also be a breadwinner. Sometimes I've seen companies do a really interesting initiative where they block out meetings during school pickup and drop-off time, so that the people who are the carers, the main carers, are able to go and do that for their kids, and that really creates a very welcoming environment for women. Statistics do show that if you just hold a few training sessions with your teams about diversity and inclusion and biases and unconscious biases, you will automatically attract more women into your organization and stop the attrition of women in the organization. So sourcing is one thing, it's very important, but I think, because there are only so many women in tech at the moment anyway, you're already fishing from a small pool. It's not necessarily about finding candidates. It's actually about creating environments where they can thrive, stick around, create meaningful careers in, and become leaders in. That's what's most important. And the consulting piece comes into it there.
Wow. I absolutely love this. This is music to my ears. I'm definitely going to get you to be one of my podcast guests for the Diversity Connector. We'll talk about that. But
Sure.
thank you so much for coming online tonight and gracing us with your presence and sharing your story. I think every woman needs to honor their story. We have so much to share. And you've certainly inspired me. I'm sure there's a lot of young women who are listening to you speak today who you've inspired as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Gertrude. I really appreciate you using this platform to platform women who have really, really interesting stories. And I've been inspired by so many of the guests that you've had on previously. So I'm just so excited to be one of them. Thank you so much.
Absolutely awesome. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. The HerStory Circle is a movement of over 50,000 women in 25 countries who come together to share, inspire, collaborate, ignite a fire in another woman's heart through the sharing of our stories. We believe we can change the world one woman at a time, one girl at a time through our stories. So be back again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Natalie, thanks again for the interview.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Gertrude.
Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the HerStory Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the HerStory Circle podcast for more updates, and join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making HerStory.